This is Colonel Troutman. Talk to me, Johnny. Talk to me, Johnny.
They're all gone, sir.
I'm the last one, sir. They drew first blood, not me.
Look, Johnny.
They're all gone, sir.
Let me come in and get you the hell out of there.
Jim, get on it.
They drew first blood.
All right, on the wire right now, we got Mr. Carl Schwarts, the singer and the primary songwriter for the hardcore band First Blood. Now, Carl, before we get into the meat and the potatoes, I use that as an ironic term. I know you're a vegan, correct?
Yeah, that's right, man.
So before we get into the meat and potatoes of First Blood, I'm going to drop some hard questions. I want to talk politics and some social issues. I know you guys are a socially aware hardcore band. What are your thoughts on the $815 billion bailout?
What are my thoughts? Only in America can something like this happen without 850 million people rioting in the streets. It goes back to show that people are out there who have everything they want. They just want more. More for themselves, less for everyone else. And people don't seem to complain about it. I think it's kind of bullshit when you think about all the politicians that voted against this bailout. And then suddenly, when they put all that pork in there, people, seem to change their minds when they get something that's pushed their way. So it's completely corrupt, and it doesn't surprise me one bit that something like this would pass.
Now, we're approaching the election. Now, is it going to be McCain or Obama? And whether or not you support either of the two, why do you feel it's going to sway one way or the other?
Honestly, I think come November, we're just going to have Mick Obama, more of the same. Doesn't really matter. Vote one, vote for the other. What's really going to change for more Americans? They're just a symbol in front of somebody that they can complain about when something's going wrong. Power's still going to be focused at the top, hoping that it trickles down, to the people that, that put in the time and do the work and, supposedly make this country run. I don't see much changing, whether it's McCain or Obama. They all claim to have good things. Their adversaries claim they have bad things about their campaign. To me, it's just a big game, a big distraction for people. So people want to vote for McCain, go out there, do your thing. People want to vote for Obama, and they're hooked on the change punch. Go ahead and do it to it. That's all I can say. I mean, the polls right now show Obama with a double-digit lead, but who knows what can change? Who steals what? Who knows?
Who knows? And how do you feel about a two-party system in general?
Well, just look at the debates. It's two parties. Anybody from a third party usually is not allowed to participate in a debate on any of the social issues that affect millions of people in this country. And people expect that two parties can speak for the entire base of the citizens of this country. And it's just a huge farce to me when you think about that. How this reality just keeps perpetuating. Like, there's obviously more interest, more social issues that need to be spoken about in the public arena, on TV, anywhere in the media, but they just get shut out continually. So.
Absolutely.
So two parties, to me, they're two parties are really just one party who receive all their funding from the same lobby groups and same, corporate chest. It's the same thing to me. So call it two, call it one. It needs to change, in my opinion. If people are to believe that they live in a true democracy where people can be heard.
Now, being a singer of a socially aware, semi-political hardcore band, do you feel there's enough bands out there right now in our current situation speaking about current events and social issues? And if you do, you do. If you don't, why do you feel there's not enough people speaking out, enough bands speaking out, using their creative and artistic outlet as an outlet for change?
I don't want to downplay any of the groups out there that might be starting to become more socially aware, or people who are trying to use hardcore as an outlet to speak about things that not only affect them and their little clique of friends and their little pressures of growing up in high school and this and that, but other things that affect just the whole base of society. They're just how they live and their future and their political system and all that stuff like that. It's a sign of the times now where I feel like there are less bands that do that, whereas 10 years ago, you'd go to a show and there'd be tables that are just literally covered with literature and pamphlets and books and postcards and stickers and everything that, that talk about change, that talk about issues that are bigger than what goes on at a hardcore show or at a metal show or any kind of underground show, things that affect people in real life every single day. I don't see that as much at shows. You don't go to shows where there's just huge booths and activist people setting up in front of shows where it's just not as visible anymore, which is, I don't know if that's a sign of the times or a sign of the fact that people don't really care. I'm sure people care about these things if they're presented these issues, which people don't know anymore. I mean, you got PlayStation 3 and Wii and all these other distractions and MTV and, all this stuff that just keeps people thinking about other things instead of getting involved with things that affect their lives. And
I mean, not to get all conspiracy theory, but is that part of the whole media control and the whole? I mean, there's some things I talk about as far as you don't hear much about the war on drugs during periods of economic hardship. Now, is that just part of the whole combination of plus the media? People. It sounds cliche, but the system keeping people down, keeping people stupid. To get back into the whole war on drugs thing in times of economic hardship, I mean, does the system want to keep people down and stupid and not want to question the situations they're in and distract them from the real issues?
I think when you look at people in positions of power, of course, people will do whatever they can to maintain that power, maintain control. Whether or not there's conspiracies that keep people dumb and docile and just totally, asleep to things that are going on rather than, becoming active and participating in their, in the whole political system and the whole system in general. For me, it's like, I don't think the fact that so many people don't really care, or the millions of people who don't really pay attention to issues, like, I don't think that's just some accident. That just people just don't care and people are dumb. Like, I'm not here to insult anyone's intelligence and criticize them for how they live and what they decide to get into and what they decide not to get into. But if people were to gain an understanding of how powerful media and how powerful any sort of mass communication is and how it affects people, if people were to understand that and try to really look into that and see who controls the media, who controls the major networks and why they only talk about certain things and why they choose not to talk about certain things on television or the radio or even some of the major network websites like CNN and stuff like that. I mean, it's not by accident that certain things are covered, certain things are ignored. I think if more people would take the time to look at why a corporation would want to control TV stations and newspapers and any kind of flow of information to the public, then you would see, of course, how that would directly tie into their ability, to maintain their control over certain things and how people think about how things should be in any kind of system.
And to break away from this heavy subject matter, we're going to get into that meat and potatoes part of the interview. I want to go back a few years and I want to have you talk about you were the original bass player for Terror.
There were a couple guys before me, but as far as like their first release and really starting the tour, like I wasn't there from the very beginning, but I was up in the mix from an early start, I guess.
Okay, and First Blood turned out as a side project. You were doing that while you were doing Terror, right?
Actually, we started that maybe, it could have been before Terror or around the same time. Like, my old band had broken up in the Bay Area, and we wanted to start something just simple, just breakdown, and heavy, and have a good time. We never thought we'd play any shows outside of, like, San Francisco or anything like that. And then after playing a few shows, that's when, Terror started down in L.A., and they needed a guitar player, so our guitar player at the time, he ended up playing for them. So, so First Blood was on kind of the side for a second until they lost the bass player, and I happened to be there, so I just came into that mix. So yeah, that's when First Blood became to be something like on the side, whereas we were trying to really get something going, and in our town, and just get it done. But we put it on the side for a few years up until about like 2000.
Yeah, and I mean, what took it to the point where you broke away from Terror and you took on First Blood as a primary project?
It's just starting something that you knew was there and that you had direct input in as far as like the sound of a band and what you really wanted to say. I was able to travel the world with some great dudes. When I was out with Taylor for a long time, but it was a band that was started. And I came into the mix like a little bit later on.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a a way of doing things, and I just kind of came into that, helped out as much as I could, make sure the band was can go forward as much as they could. But there's always something in me that said I'd rather just go back and get my own thing done, and and really say the things I want to say and do the things I want to do. I felt like I'd helped them out as much as I could, and I'd done as much as I could, and I just wanted to move on and do my own thing, whether it was starting over or not. It's just like one of those things where you just want to do your own thing, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.